Fantastic to have you back with us for Easter this year. Is this the sort of program that you do a lot of?
No, actually, it's not at all. I feel extremely lucky to be able to do that kind of program here, because normally as a guest, you never get to do the choral music, because these kind of big size programs are normally reserved for, the MDs and chief conductors and so on. So when the orchestra contacted me and said, we would love to have a Good Friday concert, and it would need to include chorus, I was like, yes. I was so happy about it. I love choral symphonic music a lot, and I really love doing it.
Fantastic. So how involved were you in putting the program together? Was it something that you got a lot of say in, and what were you hoping to achieve with what you put together?
Yes, I was lucky that Patrick and I were in close contact for deciding on the program, and I knew that you had been doing a lot of Requiem in the couple of last years, and I thought, why having a classical Requiem on Good Friday? Maybe find something else which is related to the topic of Easter, in the sense of, death, resurrection, comfort, the human fate. And as I've just been doing Brahms Requiem in Vienna for a series of concerts, somehow I was drawn to other choral music by Brahms anyway. And then I've been doing some research and looking for repertoire which might suit Good Friday. And also we wanted to include a soloist. And so, step by step, these programs form in your mind and then on the paper.
This concert program in particular, it sort of feels weirdly very current, because there's a lot of drama and turmoil in the music that you hear. But actually, one of the things that I think we all need at the moment, after quite a traumatic few years, is that sense of comfort and calm and reassurance which comes through the music. I think it's, and I think it's one of the reasons why I think it's going to be a very special program that we have this year in the concert.
Yes, I feel so too. I mean, all the struggle we are going through in maybe in a small portrait like daily life, and the struggles with, getting life done. And then the big struggles like the war, the pandemic, an uncertainty for the future and so on. All these big topics, kind of what I meant when I said like the human fate, the human condition. And then there is this aspect on how do we get comfort? It might be religious, like in Dvořák's biblical songs, but it could be also, like in Brahms' world, more abstract. It can be the art which comforts us, like in Nänie, and it could be nature who comforts us, like a bigger picture of what we small creatures are, like in Schumann's Nachtlied. So there are very different aspects on how to find comfort in turmoil.
Yeah, I mean, one of the sort of slightly jumping all over the place, so the concert obviously finishes with Schicksalslied, which sort of the Philharmonic have sung before, and which I absolutely adore. And that opening of Schicksalslied for me is one of those kind of beautiful moments of sort of comfort and calm and reassurance. As sort of the altos come in, and it's this sort of shimmering texture, but that's actually very self-contained and sure of itself. I find it a sort of an enormously reassuring piece of music, the way it opens. It obviously goes on to be back to the tumult again, but there's something, I mean, I'm sitting looking at my copy of Mendelssohn's Elijah's on a bookshelf behind my computer, and it's that bit in Elijah about the sort of the still small voice of calm is, I think, comes through a lot of the Brahms stuff that's in the concert, that I just think is really beautiful, and it is that kind of, it's like a hug from your friend telling you that it's, you know, this will pass and it's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think it's for all the big pieces we do by Brahms, they all finish in a comforting, warm, reassuring, calm manner. And when it, like in Schicksalslied, tells us that we don't have a stable place to be, that we're thrown from rock to rock, and that everything the humans are in trouble. Still, he chooses not to end the piece with that, but he ends the piece with the introductory music, which is the celestial kind of music from some creatures up there, the genius. And in the Alto Rhapsody, it's the same. He starts with all his pain of someone whose love has been rejected, and then still finds a harmonic way to end it, and to say there's a way to deal with this pain of being rejected. And so every piece finishes with a very rewarding, kind of comforting, it's going to be all right feeling, which is really somehow spectacular, because it's honest. You can feel that Brahms kind of really believes it, and he makes you believe it, that it's going to be all right.
Absolutely. And like I say, I think we kind of need that sort of message at the moment. He just writes music that really plays to all the strengths of the alto voice, and it's just absolutely glorious to sing. I have to say, I've been really enjoying that. I mean, is there any, I don't know much about Brahms's backstory. You know, did he have a fabulous alto that he got to work with all the time, or is it just something that he just has an innate feel for what really works for the voice?
I think part of the beauty of the music is the counterpoint and the the polyphonic way of basically caring for each voice. I mean, it might be specifically striking for altos, because you might be neglected by others. But I've been singing Brahms Requiem, for example, in the bass, and it has been one of the most beautiful, uplifting experiences during my study times. I think that's what every kind of masterpiece has kind of in himself or itself, is that that it takes care for everybody. I mean, the orchestral part is relatively small and chamber music-like, but still it's very rewarding in the sense that every voice is taken care of with love, and there's not any kind of accompaniment which is there without any meaning. So I think really, maybe meaningful might be the word which comes when I think of Brahms.
We're opening the concert with, now, apologies for the German pronunciation in advance, Begräbnisgesang? Is that good?
Excellent.
That'll do.
Very good.
And so you talked about orchestral writing there. It's a really interesting piece, because I think listening to it, the way that he uses the brass at the beginning and end of Begräbnisgesang it's a piece that's unmistakably Brahms, but there's a kind of, it speaks to something much older as well, a much older tradition, which is makes it a really notable kind of piece, and I think a really striking start to the concert.
The piece is for winds and chorus, and I think part of the idea was that it was actually meant to be played at a funeral, so also meant to be played outside. And that's why it's a rather small group of players, and it's all winds. And for me, it feels like Brahms was, he was extremely educated, although he never had kind of any profound scholar education. He was someone who spent his entire life in studying. And I'm pretty sure he has put that into a context of musical history. And this piece reminds me very much of Mozart, Maurische Trauermusik, like sorrow music, the Maurische sorrow music, which is also with, a lot of clarinets and beset horns and so on. And it feels like it comes from that kind of tradition, a very somber way of writing. And it has something very primeval almost in this kind of harsh, very homophonic writing.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me slightly of sort of colliery bands and that sort of tradition of playing sort of that is very connected with our mining communities in the UK. It's got quite a different character to it, but that I think is really interesting, and really lovely.
Yes, Brahms, coming from Hamburg, was a Protestant. And in Germany, there's this Protestant tradition of brass bands playing instead or together with the organ at church. And this kind of, as we say, Posaunenchor, like trombone chorus, like brass band, is something which is very related to the Protestant church. And I'm sure he knew that, that kind of music making, and it might have been inspiring for that piece too.
I'm less familiar with, although I have been also listening to the biblical songs of Dvořák and the Alto Rhapsody. Tell me a bit more about those, because they're the ones that are a bit newer to me.
Well, the biblical songs are rarely done somehow, unfortunately. I don't know why. There are 10 of them, and they've been written for piano and voice. And then Dvořák has orchestrated the 5 first of them. There are other 5 orchestrated by another conductor, but I decided to do only the ones orchestrated by the master himself. So we're going to do the 5 first of that cycle. And these are actually the only biblical texts in that program. They're all from Psalms, from the Old Testament, and it comes almost across like little miniatures. Each song is like 2 to 3 minutes, and but it's a very, very rich and emotional world. Dvořák has written the cycle in New York when he was in America, and it was a rather tough time. Financially insecure, although he was the director of the conservatory there, but they couldn't pay, and he was there with his family, and he was in the exile, also an actual topic. And his father was ill. He actually died around the time when Dvořák was writing the cycle. And it was not a very productive time. He hasn't been writing too much in that winter, but these songs occurred out of this difficult time. And it feels like a very personal statement. And I don't know why these songs are performed so rarely. I find them absolutely spectacular. It's late Dvořák. Yeah. So we have the really mature writing of a great master at that time, and it's really lovely.